Charles Spencer Chaplin, popularly referred to by his stage name Charlie Chaplin, was born in London, England, on April 16, 1889. His father was a versatile vocalist and actor, and his mother, known under the stage name of Lily Harley, was an attractive actress and singer, who gained a reputation for her work in the light opera field. Charlie was thrown on his own resources before he reached the age of 10, as the early death of his father and the subsequent illness of his mother made it necessary for Charlie and his brother, Sidney, to fend for themselves. Having inherited natural talents from their parents, the youngsters took to the stage as the best opportunity for a career. Charlie made his professional debut as a member of a juvenile group called the Eight Lancashire Lads and rapidly won popular favour as an outstanding tap dancer. When he was about 12, he got his first chance to act in a legitimate stage show, and appeared as Billy the Page Boy. At the close of this engagement, Charlie started a career as a comedian in vaudeville, which eventually took him to the United States in 1910. He scored an immediate hit with American audiences, particularly with his characterization in a sketch entitled A Night in an English Music Hall. He finally agreed to appear before the cameras at the expiration of his vaudeville commitments in November 1913, and his entrance in the cinema world took place that month. His initial salary was $150 a week, but his overnight success on the screen spurred other producers to start negotiations for his services. At the completion of his Senate contract, Chaplin moved on to the S&A Company at a large increase. Sidney Chaplin had then arrived from England, and took his brother's place with Keystone as their leading comedian. The following year Charlie was even more in demand, and signed with the Mutual Film Corporation for a much larger sum to make 12 two-reel comedies. When his contract with Mutual expired in 1917, Chaplin decided to become an independent producer in a desire for more freedom and greater leisure in making his movies. To that end, he busied himself with the construction of his own studios. This plant was situated in the heart of the residential section of Hollywood at La Brie Avenue. Early in 1918, Chaplin entered into an agreement with First National Exhibitors Circuit, a new organization specially formed to exploit his pictures. His next commercial venture was the production of a comedy dealing with the war. Shoulder Arms, released in 1918 at a most opportune time, proved a veritable earthquake at the box office and added enormously to Chaplin's popularity. April of that year, Chaplin then joined with Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks and D.W. Griffith to found the United Artists Corporation. However, before he could assume his responsibilities with United Artists, Chaplin had to complete his contract with First National. So early in 1921, he came out with a six-reel masterpiece, The Kid, in which he introduced to the screen one of the greatest child actors the world has ever known, Jackie Coogan. Chaplin generally strove to separate his work from his private life, but in this case the two became inextricably and painfully mixed. Searching for a new leading lady, he rediscovered Lolita McMurray, whom he had employed, as a pretty 12-year-old, in The Kid. Still not yet 16, Lolita was put under contract and renamed Lita Gray. Chaplin quickly embarked on a clandestine affair with her, and when the film was 6 months into shooting, Lita discovered she was pregnant. Chaplin found himself forced into a marriage which brought misery to both partners, though it produced two sons, Charles Jr. and Sidney Chaplin. The circus won Charles Chaplin his first Academy Award. It was still not yet called the Oscar. He was given it at the first presentation ceremony, in 1929. But as late as 1964, it seemed, this was a film he preferred to forget. The reason was not the film itself, but the deeply fraught circumstances surrounding its making. Chaplin was in the throes of the breakup of his marriage with Lita Gray, and production of the circus coincided with one of the most unseemly and sensational divorces of 20s Hollywood, as Lita's lawyers sought every means to ruin Chaplin's career by smearing his reputation. As if his domestic troubles were not enough, the film seemed fated to catastrophe of every kind. In the late 1960s, after the years spent trying to forget it, Chaplin returned to the circus to re-release it with a new musical score of his own composition. It seemed to symbolize his reconciliation to the film, which caused him so much stress. Chaplin was acutely preoccupied with the social and economic problems of this new age. In 1931 and 1932 he had left Hollywood behind, to embark on an 18-month world tour. In Europe, he had been disturbed to see the rise of nationalism and the social effects of the Depression, of unemployment and of automation. He read books on economic theory, and devised his own economic solution, an intelligent exercise in utopian idealism, based on a more equitable distribution not just of wealth but of work. In 1931 he told a newspaper interviewer, "Unemployment is a vital question. Machinery should benefit mankind. It should not spell tragedy and throw it out of work." With the King in New York, Charles Chaplin was the first filmmaker to dare to expose, through satire and ridicule, the paranoia and political intolerance which overtook the United States in the Cold War years of the 1940s and 50s. Chaplin himself had bitter personal experience of the American malaise of that time. To take up filmmaking again, as an exile, was a challenging undertaking. He was now nearing 70. For almost 40 years he had enjoyed the luxury of his own studio and a staff of regular employees, who understood his way of work. Now though he had to work with strangers, in costly and unfriendly rented studios, the film shows the strain. In 1966 he produced his last picture, A Countess from Hong Kong, for Universal Pictures, his only film in color, starring Sophia Loren and Marlon Brando. The film started as a project called Stowaway in the 1930s, planned for Paulette Goddard. Chaplin appears briefly as a ship steward. Chaplin's son Sidney once again has an important role, and 3 of Chaplin's daughters have small parts in the film. The film was unsuccessful at the box office, but Petula Clark had 1 or 2 hit records with songs from the soundtrack music, and the music continues to be very popular. Chaplin's versatility extended to writing, music and sports. He was the author of at least 4 books. He was also a composer, having written and published many songs. Among them, he died on Christmas Day 1977, survived by 8 children from his last marriage with Una O'Neill, and 1 son from his short marriage to Lita Gray.